Okay, welcome to the part 3. Hey, sounds like an old Casey and the Sunshine Band album, part 3. That was a good one. Anyways, last week we started with a joke. This week we're also going to start with a joke, but it happens to be a true joke. It happens to be a true story. It happens to be something that happened with me. Just to understand what Chazal tell us, that Hakol bidei shamayim, chutz miyirat shamayim. Everything's in the hands of Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu commands us to go out and to make effort, but there is no connection between an effort and the result when it comes to things that are not related to Yirat Hashem, things that are connected to fear of God. Just regular things, materialistic things, doesn't really matter at all. The result and our efforts, there is no connection between them. What a person is supposed to make, a person will make. He could take 5 jobs and he could take -5 jobs. Show you case in point. Motzei Shabbat, in my house in Elon More, we didn't have the use of our phone and we didn't have the use of the computer, the internet. Okay, for the next 2 days, we didn't have the use of our phone and the use of the internet. Now, while speaking to representatives of the company that we're connected to, different companies that we're connected to, we heard the following opinions. One opinion was that there's nothing to do about it. We have to send a technician down to Elon More. But you know, it's not easy in Israel to finding someone that's willing to come to Elon More, that scary place. Ooh, yeah. In fact, you know, I got a call last night from some girls from some seminary in Israel, and they asked if they could come for Shabbat. So we said sure. And then 10 minutes later, we get a phone call back. What's the phone call? Check this out, Brother Mike. We get a phone call. Oh, we looked on a map and we saw that Elon More is in the Shomron. And our principal said that we're not allowed to go to the Shomron. So thank you, but no thank you for that info on Shabbat. Okay. I was listening, we got the mitzvah. And then we didn't have to do too much about it. Okay, so, you know, Elon More, it's this kind of like frightening kind of place. A lot of companies don't like coming down. No service. If you ever thought about it, you know, the prison system is called Sheirut Beit Sohar. So I've suggested to them, when I've been visiting my son lately, I've been visiting him a lot because my son is not allowed to have any friends visiting. He's only allowed to have his father and his mother and sisters and brothers.
Even if the father has sat in prison?
Oh, good question. It took a couple of weeks till I received special permission. Gewalt! Special permission, thank you! Oh yes. Special permission to visit my own son because of the fact that I've been there, done that stuff. Anyways, so we have to send a technician, but you know, till we find somebody, it's going to take a couple of days till we find somebody with enough guts to go to Elon More. Okay, then we're talking to another representative, and they tell us, no. It's not. We don't need to send you a technician, but it's because you haven't paid. You haven't paid. We haven't paid, but we have our bank statement here that we see that the money went out every month. What are you talking about? We haven't paid. And then a third representative tells us, take out this plug, that plug. Okay, in, out, in, out, in, out. Really good. Folks, put on a seatbelt for this one. The fourth employee says, listen, it just came back by itself. It's kind of like Mike's cars. You know, like They don't work, but all of a sudden, one starts working, you know, bow, 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 yeah, one starts working. Folks, can you imagine that? No, you need a technician. They know. No, it's because you haven't paid your bills. They know. No, you got to pull this plug, that plug, put this, put that in that, yeah. No. None of the above. It just came back by itself. Hakol bidei shamayim. Everything's in the hands of Hashem. It just came back by itself. Forget them technicians. Forget that money. Came back by itself. Gewalt. Okay. To me, that was a much better joke this week than last week, even though it's a true story. Okay, folks, let's hit it. There's too much Torah here. We gotta keep on trucking here. Okay, we're going to give a short summary of the first two, no more than 2 minutes. It's the 2-minute warning, the 2-minute summary from the first two classes. Okay, let's get a few points down. Number 1, we proved that A, the tribe of Dan is the lowest of all the tribes spiritually. Fact. 2, we saw that even though that they are the lowest, for some reason they're always connected. God always connects them to the highest, to Yehuda. Not only does He connect them to the highest, they are connected to Malchut, to something to do with the leadership, kingdom, the king, the government, so to speak. They're always connected to Judah. And of course, Judah, he has the task of leading the Jewish people, leading also spiritually, but also leading the country, army, etc. Very interesting. Point number three that we proved is that besides for standing out in the fact that the tribe of Dan is the lowest of tribes, they also stand out in one other subject, and that is the subject of wars. Wars in the past and wars in the future. Just give an example, 2 examples, quick. We saw that there is, according to the Zohar HaKadosh, there is a leader of the tribe of Dan. His name is Sariah. And Sariah will come along with the Messiah from Joseph in order to fight and do vengeance against the nations of the world before the coming of Messiah. Once again, Sariah from the tribe of Dan will join forces to fight what they do best, the tribe of Dan in the past and will be in the future. They join forces. Number 2, we said that according to the Gemara, that the beginning of redemption is when a person sees wars. So when you see the tribe of Dan and they stand out more than anyone else because of their wars that they fight, which we proved. So this is the beginning of the redemption. And we spoke last week that the 7th blessing of the Amidah is Goel Yisrael, redeem Israel. And the tribe of Dan received from their father Jacob and from Moses in 2 different places, they receive the 7th blessing. Dan, wars, 7, Messiah comes, all connected to wars. Okay, now, Rashi himself tells us that what is Dan? Dan means to judge. But Rashi explains what does Dan mean. Rashi writes in the portion of Vayechi, the 49th chapter, the 16th verse, he writes there, what does it mean, Dan? He writes there that he will do vengeance. Dan will do vengeance against various nations. So the essence of the tribe of Dan is wars, judgment, and vengeance. Nikama. Amazing. Okay. So now let's connect the puzzle here. Of course, we're trying to look, is there a connection between Samson and the state of Israel? Is the state of Israel the beginning of redemption or not? So let's connect a few wires here. Number one, the lowest tribe, we said, is Dan. When you look at the spiritual situation in the state of Israel, those that are leading, so-called leading us, you can see a big connection between the lows and the lows. How low can you get? Connection number one. Connection number two. We said that what sticks out with Dan is, besides for this lowness, is also wars. Think about all the wars that the Jewish people have been involved in the last 67 years. For 2,000 years, the Jews were not involved in wars and fighting. And look, just in 67 years, look how many wars we're involved in. Dan, tribe of Dan, wars, state of Israel, wars and fighting. Number three, we said that there's a tremendous connection. Always, God connects Dan, the lowest, and the highest, Yehuda. Dan, who's the physical side, the warring side, with Judah, who represents spiritual, but also he's the king. He's also the government, the leadership. Once again, we have Dan with Yehuda, the king, the leadership, and we have the state of Israel, which today is considered to be the leaders of the Jewish people. Number four or five, we have the tribe of Dan, which is the physical fighting side of the Jewish people. And then we have the state of Israel, which is the physical fighting side of the people of Israel in our times. So we see right on top here in the first two, in our first two Shiurim classes, we see a tremendous connection between the tribe of Dan, we'll see soon Samson, and the state of Israel. Let's go on from there. Okay.
What was Tzaddik Hashmi?
We said that we said in the previous class that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu put together Dan and Yehuda, that's because Yehuda gave the spiritual touch to the tabernacle or the temple, and Dan was the more physical, the building, the physical building of the temple. There's a need for both those sides. When you build something, when you create something, you need the Mashiach ben Yosef, who creates a physical entity, army, etc., governing body. And you need also the spiritual. Okay. Our last point last week is we talked about the only time in the Torah which uses the expression of the beginning of redemption, the only time, Gewalt, the only time it's used is in connections to wars. When there are wars, open up your eyes, hold on, put on your seatbelt, because the redemption is soon coming your way. Okay, on that, we can understand now 2 points, which are unbelievable points. Unbelievable, amazing points. If we look back in the Torah, in the written Torah and the oral Torah, there were 2 great giants of the Jewish people that looked out in their times, and they saw the Messiah in 2 characters. What are those 2 great people? The 2 giants were Yaakov Avinu, and the second giant was Rabbi Akiva. They looked in their times, or past their times. They looked into the future. And they saw the Messiah coming. But the amazing thing is, who did they see as the Messiah? Chazal tell us in many, many places that Jacob, when he blessed his children, when he blessed the tribe of Dan, he looked out, he looked in the future, and he saw a guy named Samson, Shimshon. And he was certain that Shimshon was the Messiah. Come on. Yaakov Avinu, I don't understand. You gotta be, was this a joke? Are we supposed to laugh? You know, in Hollywood they have applause signs and laugh signs. Just make sure that you know what to do. I mean, are we really serious here? The lowest of the tribes? The lowest of the leaders? I mean, this guy's marrying Plishtim women left and right. He's, excuse my expression, but he's hanging around with immodest women. Yeah? Doesn't seem too kosher to me. I don't know if we could sell this one len in Mea Sharim or Bnei Brak. I don't know if it's going to go over well. I don't know. Don't think so. But Yaakov Avinu, it says in many places, he looked in the future and he saw the Messiah coming. He saw the Messiah in Samson. There was a second great, Rabbi Akiva. He looked out in his days and he saw a guy named Bar Koziva, Shimon. And he said, this is the Messiah. Come on, Rabbi Akiva. I mean, you're a giant in the Torah. You know that, I mean, what's this guy? This guy is not a Torah person. It's not going to go over well in Kiryat Sefer and in Modina. I don't think it's really going to go over well. Why is that? It is that way because, as we said in the Gemara, when a person sees wars, big wars, look for the coming of the Mashiach. So who did big wars? Rabbi Akiva looked and put on his glasses, and he saw in his day great big wars. 2.5 years, if I'm not mistaken, that Bar Kokhba ruled. He was successful. Yaakov Avinu looks and he sees the wars. He sees tremendous wars by one person. He's a one-man show. It's kind of like Mike, a one-man show. Kind of like Mike today in a one-man show. So this is unbelievable. Why? Because they saw wars. And when you see great wars, this is the clearest sign of the beginning of the redemption. Rav Avram Yitzchak HaKohen Cook writes in his letters, second section, letter 305. Listen to the words. כשיש מלחמות גדולות בעולם מתעורר כוח המשיח עת הזמיר הגיע זמיר עריצים הרשעים נכחדים מן העולם והעולם מתבשם. Take it away. Bow, bow, bow. Yeah. Rav Cook, man, he just hit a grand slam over there. It's one of these touchdowns, you know, from one side of the field to the next. Let's explain that. Rav Cook writes, when you see great wars in the world, the strength of the Messiah begins to awake. Look for the Messiah. Why? Because when wars happen, the evil are destroyed. And when the evil are destroyed, then the world is much cleaner place. You know, there's a special mitzvah, those that are able to daven, to pray in the morning at sunrise. And there's a few hundred reasons why it's a good idea. But one of them, I remember learning, was that at the time when people are praying it before sunrise and getting to the Amidah at sunrise, where are most people at that time? Sleeping away. So the commentators say that this is a clean time to daven, because most of the people, the wicked, they're not up now, and they're not doing their bad things. The bad things were done, 10 o'clock at night starts, how does that song go by Elton John? Saturday night's the night for fighting. When do things get rough on the streets? 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and then they get tired. The boys and the girls, they get kind of tired, and they have to go to sleep. That is the cleanest time of the day to daven, because most of the wicked, they're sleeping now. They're like, well, they drank too much, or whatever they were taking, too much of that. So Rav Kook tells us, when you see wars, you see the Mashiach. This is an awakening of the Mashiach, because we are getting rid of the wicked. And the world is much cleaner. The world smells a lot better, getting rid of all these wicked people. The Ger Rebbe writes on his commentary in the Torah, on page 393, says something very interesting. He says all the generations, all the children of the tribe of Dan, where did they come from? They came from one person. If you look in the Torah, it talks about the 12 tribes and all their kids, and from the kids, more grandchildren, great-grandchildren. But very interesting. That happens to be the biggest tribe. How did they come that way? From one person, a guy named Chushim. The Ger Rebbe says the following line. Listen to this one. This is unbelievable. The Ger Rebbe writes, if you look at the word Chushim, it spells out the letters of Mashiach. What do we know about Mr. Chushim? We only know one thing. We only know that he took out, with the help of Yehuda, he took out Mr. Esav, Mr. Edom, that red guy. He took him out. He killed him on the spot. That's your Messiah? That's your Messiah? It's an interesting Messiah. But that's what the Ger Rebbe writes. If you look at the words, Chushim, it spells out the same letters of Mashiach. Listen, I'm really happy that you guys are still sitting on the chairs. You haven't jumped out the windows, gone through the ceiling here. Listen, mamash, we're going to send you guys to the Knesset. Okay. And the Ger Rebbe continues with a few other really booms. He also tells us, we know that three tribes were in each direction, north, south, east, west. Who was in the north? The north was Asher, Dan, and Naphtali. Those were the three tribes in the north. And we know something that the Torah tells us, from the north will come bad things. Think about it. Think about all those good things happening up in the north. There's Lebanon, and there's Syria, there's Iraq, and there's Iran. And they're just all getting ready. The Torah told us thousands of years ago, Mitzafon tipatach hara'ah. From the north will come the bad. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who does He put in the north to protect us from the bad? You got it. Dan. Tribe of Dan. Because he has power to fight and protect the Jewish people. When a person attacked the Jewish people, they came up first, usually, as we said, if I'm not mistaken, last week, we said that they would have to come up against first, they would come up against the tribe of Dan. If you want to come and attack the Jewish people, come on. But first you're going to have to pass our linebackers. And our linebackers are the tribe of Dan. They're our fighters. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu has it that the tribe of Dan, they are in the north. And the north is where the attacks come from. And he puts the tribe of Dan, Chushim, the Mashiach, the fighters, equals Mashiach. The holy book, Be'er Moshe, unbelievable. Perush on the Torah, about 15 books. Unbelievable stuff, deep stuff. The Be'er Moshe writes on portion of Vayechi 220. Listen to this. It's a doozer. Put on another seatbelt. I don't know if we have insurance here. Listen to this one. Be'er Moshe writes, when Jacob blessed all of his sons with his, a little bit below his prophecy, Ruach HaKodesh, spiritual sense of future happenings, he was certain that Shimshon was the Messiah. Yaakov looks and he's blessing his sons, and he blesses Dan, and he sees from Dan will come a person hundreds of years later named Samson, and he sees that he will be the Messiah. When did Jacob become convinced that he was mistaken?
When he saw him die.
When he saw him die. So listen to this turn here. Unbelievable Torah here of the Be'er Moshe. Folks, we're going to have to scream it out. The Be'er Moshe says, Chazal say, when he died, he knew that he was no longer the Messiah. Now, this might be a real chidush today for Yechi Adoneinu Moreinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Le'olam Va'ed. Hey! No, okay, no puns intended. But what can we say? Yaakov sees that Samson dies. That was it. He's no longer the Messiah. I guess maybe they made a mistake. Maybe Jacob made a mistake. He should have kept on believing it. I don't know. Okay, but no, we don't want any letters from those from those sweet Chabadnikim, please. Okay, so listen to this. The Be'er Moshe writes, this is an amazing statement. Pele! אחרי שיעקב ראה את כל מעשיו, כולל המקולקלים שבהם, אף על פי כן סבר שהוא מלך המשיח. Looks like I think we need a 2-minute break here. Unbelievable. Be'er Moshe says a tremendous Torah. It's unbelievable. Yaakov sees with his prophecy, a little bit below prophecy, he sees Samson. He sees everything he's going to do. He's hanging around with them women, from those Plishtim women. These parents are saying, there's not enough Jewish women. You got to go for them Plishtim. What's going on with you, brother Shimshon? Get together, get it together. Yaakov, the same Yaakov that said that Samson was the Messiah. He saw everything that Samson did. And when did he say he was not the Messiah? Only when he died. He saw everything that he did. Getting together with these goyot, with these Gentile women. And he still said, this is the Mashiach. Lenny, I really have to give you credit. You're still sitting in that chair. Unbelievable. Be'er Moshe. Check it out. Chatam Sofer. Holy Chatam Sofer. He has a commentary on the Torah. On the portion of Vayechi, once again, the end of Genesis, page 243. 243. Listen to his words. Put on another seatbelt because we're going for another circle here. When Yaakov saw, this is Khatam Sofer, when Yaakov saw in his prophecy, Khatam Sofer uses the word prophecy, not Ruach HaKodesh, higher degree. When he saw in his prophecy that Samson, when he saw in his prophecy Samson, he realized that he was the preparation. Listen to these words. He saw that Samson was not the Messiah. He saw that Samson was the preparation, was the assistance to the Messiah. He's the lead up. You know, when you go to a concert, they have those small acts, and then they got, and then come out Michael Jackson, or somebody like that. I saw a great line. I just have to hold on a second. It's a great line. There was a couple of days ago, if not mistaken, there was a concert by this guy named Afro Man. This guy named Afro Man. And this white woman, he's black, Afro Man, I figure he's black. So there's a woman that gets on the stage, starts like dancing around, I guess. And then all of a sudden, Mr. Afro Man, who's playing his guitar, he notices that this white woman is right behind him. The guy, I'm not kidding you, check it out. The guy just turns around, Mr. Afro Man, and just knocks her out. Bernie, am I telling you like it is?
I saw it, you are telling the truth.
Oh, of course I'm telling you the truth. Telling it like it is. Now, I saw a great comment. Right, he's a musician. That was his best hit ever. Italian, you don't get it? Best hit?
Best hit.
Best hit?
A very good hit.
Hit, and also if you're a musician, you have hits. This is my hit song. Yafeh. Okay, so folks, we're going for a hit song over here. Okay, back to the Khatam Sofer. I just had to throw that one in. So the Khatam Sofer explains it different. What does it mean that Jacob saw the Messiah? That Samson was the Messiah? No. He saw that the build-up that Samson would bring in the Messiah, what Samson represents, will bring in the Messiah. And he goes further. We see that when Samson was captured, they brought him into a sort of kind of prison. And in this prison, they brought in many Philistine women into this prison, and they forced him to have relations because they wanted to have giants like Samson. So that's what Chazal learned from this. If you look at the words of the prison, it means something also. In addition, it means also these relations. Now, who came out of one of these coerced relations? Goliath. Goliath came out of one of these relations that were forced on Samson before he let them have it, and he died himself. Which means, who nailed Goliath? David, the Messiah. So Khatam Sofer says that we see with Samson that Samson is not the Messiah, but he leads to the coming of the Messiah by bringing in the world. He brought into the world Goliath, who Goliath is slain by David, who is the Messiah. In other words, when Rabbi Akiva looked and he saw a fox on the Temple Mount, he was happy. So the rabbis asked him, why are you happy? So he said, until I saw the negative prophecy that the Zion will be destroyed and uprooted until I saw the negative. I was not sure that the positive of returning will be. So the negative here, Yaakov Avinu, he saw the negative. He saw what happened to Samson. But he knew that the downfall of Samson would also bring the downfall of Samson in that prison where he was forced to have relations. That would bring on Goliath, which would bring on King David, which would bring on the Messiah. So who brings on the Messiah? Samson. The commentators ask an obvious question, which should have been asked so far. How in the world does Jacob think that Samson is going to be the Messiah? Besides for what we've said, that he's spiritually low, and what he did, the women, the immodest women, all of this. Besides for all of that, there's a problem here. There's a big problem here. Why? Because the Torah teaches us that who will be, which family brings in the Messiah? Yehuda. Yehuda brings in the Messiah. So how can this be? Last week, I think I was tired or something, or we missed a point over here, but we mentioned that Shimshon's father was, of course, from Dan. His mother was there from the elite family of Yehuda. So, of course, his father was from Dan, so he's from Dan. So, how could it be that Shimshon is the Messiah? How could Yaakov have made the mistake? Isn't it clear? I mean, the Ramban writes that the reason why the Hashmonaim in the time of Hanukkah were punished because they are Kohanim from the tribe of Levi, and they have nothing to do with the government. They are not from Yehuda, and they kept on ruling the Jewish people. It's not their jurisdiction. Okay, so listen, very interesting what the commentators say. What does this mean? How could Yaakov have made a mistake? Yaakov didn't make any mistake. Yaakov knows that. So what does it mean? He saw in Samson the Messiah. Listen closely. Eitz Yosef writes in Tanchuma on the portion of Vayechi, Katuv b'Chazal, Kevan שראה יעקב את שמשון, סבר שהגאולה מגיע בימיו. There's the wording of Chazal. The Eitz Yosef brings down, very interesting, that there's a Chazal that says, not that Shimshon, who's from Dan, is going to be the Messiah, but Samson, who is from Dan, in his days, he will bring upon the Messiah. That's what it means. And that's what Jacob saw. Next, the Anaf Yosef, which is a commentator also on the Tanchuma, says the following. Yaakov was certain that Samson was close in proximity to Messiah, just like Eliyahu comes before the Messiah. Once again, it's a sign of the coming of Messiah. He's not the Messiah himself. He's from the tribe of Dan. The tribe of Dan, that's not what they do. Lead. They're not from the kingdom. They're not from Judah. But he was sure. He was sure, Yaakov, he saw, that Shimshon would be close proximity to the coming of the Messiah. And even so, listen to this, very interesting. The Anaf Yosef continues, even though we could say that Din Shmuel, Shimshon was the last judge. And then we start a new period of time of the kings, times of the Messiah. But there was Shmuel and Navi right in there. But Shmuel and Navi, the Anaf Yosef's, he was just a judge. He was not a fighter of Israel. He was not a fighter for Israel. The sign that we're looking for is that fight, is the wars. The wars represent the beginning of redemption. אף על פי ששמואל בא אחרי שמשון, שמואל נביא השם היה, ולא נלחם כנגד אויביו. So we see Shimshon and then David. Because Shmuel is after, in chronological, but he has nothing, there's no really connection between Shmuel and Samson and David. Samson and David are connected in the fact that they fight against the enemies of the Jewish people. God willing, don't touch that dial.
What about Shaul? What does he count?
Shaul HaMelech, it says Shaul HaMelech was an exception to the rule. He's from Binyamin. And we say that Yehuda he was a temporary kind of phenomena. But the way that the permanent stage of the Jewish people is, we have the last judge, we have Samson, he was the last judge, and then we have after him the king, the true king, which of course is David, which means wars against the enemies of the Jewish people. To be continued, God willing, next week.
Tanit Esther.
Okay?
Until the third.
No,
Don't drink too much.
no Wednesday.
Until the third.
I know I have to know. It's not so different, but they have some small, I think that's a little bit of